Chosen one. The day I warned you about is no longer a distant possibility. It is here. You can feel it in the atmosphere. It's in the way the world around you feels more fragile. Yet your spirit feels sharper than ever. It's in the sudden alignment of signs you can no longer call coincidence. This is not imagination. This is the appointed time. Perhaps you remember the moments when God whispered warnings into your spirit. A passing word in prayer. A dream that startled you awake. A conversation that left you trembling. As if heaven itself had spoken. You didn't see the whole picture then. But now the pieces fit together. What once seemed far away has arrived. You've noticed the changes. People drifting from your life without explanation. Old desires losing their pull. Places you once felt comfortable in now feeling strangely foreign. That was not chance. It was the hand of God clearing your path. He was removing everything that could weigh you down in this hour. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 42. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. This is why your life has been under such intense pressure. Hell was not trying to stop your past. It was trying to steal your future. Every delay, every heartbreak, every spiritual attack was aimed at exhausting you before this moment came. But you are still standing. And because you are still standing, the prophecy over your life is still alive. When heaven warns you, it is not to plant fear, it is to stir readiness. Warnings are signs of mercy, not condemnation. But mercy has movement. It calls you to act while the door is still open. If you linger too long, the opportunity will pass, and the weight of what could have been will be heavy to bear. Some will mock your urgency. They will say you are imagining things, but they cannot hear what you hear. They cannot feel the trembling in your spirit. They do not understand that heaven is counting seconds, not years. For you right now, the hidden years were never wasted. Every silent prayer, every lonely night, every moment of surrender was shaping you for this very point in time. The refining fire has burned away what could not survive where you are going. You are not entering this moment empty. You are entering prepared. And yet, expect resistance. The enemy will not surrender without a final fight. Distractions will appear. Temptations will return. And old fears will knock at your door. Recognize them for what they are, proof that you are closer to breakthrough than ever before. Chosen one. The hour is here. You either step into the fulfillment of what was spoken, or you watch it pass you by. The choice is not tomorrow's, it is today's. If this word has struck something deep within you, act on it. Share this so others will awaken before it's too late. Subscribe so you remain connected to the flow of these prophetic messages. And as a sign of agreement with heaven's timing, comment the prophetic number 444 below. This is not just another turning of the clock. This is the day I told you would come. Walk into it and understand this step is not the finish line, it is the threshold. Once you cross it, you will see why every trial was necessary. You will recognize the faces of those who prayed you through without you even knowing it. You will feel the shift in the spiritual atmosphere around you, like chains snapping in places you could not see. Heaven is not just inviting you forward, it is releasing angelic assistance to walk beside you. So, lift your head, breathe deeply. Let your spirit answer without hesitation, I am ready. For when you move in obedience today, you will not only enter your own promised ground, you will blaze a trail for others still trapped in their wilderness. This day will be remembered in heaven's record as the day the chosen ones stepped into their appointed hour. And one more thing, do not look back. The past is no longer your home. The mistakes, the delays, the betrayals, they are not allowed to cross over with you. From this moment on, your steps are ordered, your path is lit, and your victory is already sealed. Walk boldly, for heaven has already gone ahead of you. You have felt it building for days, maybe weeks, the quiet, stirring in your spirit that refuses to be silenced. It comes when you are alone, when distractions fade, and the world grows quiet enough for you to notice that something inside you is unsettled. This is not ordinary restlessness, it is heaven's hand pressing on your soul, urging you to pay attention. You have walked through enough seasons to know the difference between anxiety and divine urgency. Anxiety rattles your mind, but divine urgency anchors you, even as it quickens your pace. It's as though the Spirit is saying, "Get ready, something is about to shift." This stirring often comes before clarity. You may not have all the answers yet, and you may not see the full picture of what is ahead, but you can feel the weight of it in your chest. It's not fear, it's an awakening. God is alerting you that you are standing at the edge of a moment that will redefine your journey. There are times when this stirring feels like a deep ache, as though your spirit is homesick for a place you have not yet been. You long for something you cannot name, and every part of you knows that staying where you are is no longer an option. Heaven is not calling you to comfort, it is calling you to movement. The Word of God speaks through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 85, verse 8. I will listen to what God the Lord says. He promises peace to His people, His faithful servants, but let them not turn to folly. Notice how the scripture begins with listening. Before there is movement, there must be awareness. Before there is action, there must be clarity. The stirring in your spirit is God's way of getting your attention before the next instruction is given. If you ignore it, you risk missing the very direction you have been praying for. This stirring is also a sign that certain things around you are coming to an end. It may be a relationship, a habit, or a mindset that has served its purpose but can no longer remain. The Spirit will not allow you to feel settled in places where you no longer belong. You may feel tension without knowing exactly why. That tension is a divine signal. Something in your life has expired, and the longer you try to hold on to it, the heavier it will feel. There is also a holy unease that comes when God is preparing you for greater responsibility. What you carry in the next season will require more focus, more purity, more discipline than before. The stirring is heaven's way of saying, the time to prepare is now. It is not a warning of destruction, it is a call to readiness. Do not mistake the quietness of this season for inactivity. Just because God is not speaking loudly does not mean He is not moving. The stirring is proof that something is happening in the unseen, like a seed underground. Your destiny is pushing upward, even if you can't yet see the breakthrough above the surface. At times, this inner pull will disrupt your normal routines. Things you once enjoyed may suddenly lose their taste. Conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. Even your daily patterns may shift as your spirit becomes more sensitive to what God is saying. This is not loss, it is transition. You are being rewired to operate on heaven's rhythm, not the world's. Many ignore the stirring because it feels inconvenient. It interrupts plans. It requires sacrifice. But if you push it aside long enough, your heart will grow dull, and you will miss the moment heaven was trying to prepare you for. The wise recognize that the stirring is not an interruption, it is an invitation. Right now, your task is simple. Lean into it. Do not drown it out with noise or busyness. Ask the Spirit to sharpen your hearing so you can catch even the faintest whisper. The stirring is not meant to make you anxious. It is meant to align you so that when the call to move comes, you are ready to take the first step without hesitation. In this moment, the stirring is your compass. It is heaven's way of turning your gaze toward the horizon. Something is coming, something that will require your full attention, your full faith, and your full obedience. You may not see it yet, but you will. And when you do, you will realize that the unease you feel now was not a burden, but a blessing in disguise. The more you think back, the more you realize the signs were always there. God had been speaking to you long before this day arrived. But like most people, you did not fully understand. The dreams you once brushed aside, the sudden thoughts that came to you at inconvenient moments, the scriptures that seemed to echo in your heart. For days, these were not random. They were prophetic echoes, breadcrumbs from heaven to lead you here. It's humbling when you see it in hindsight. You remember the times you felt an unexplainable urge to avoid certain situations, to take a different path, or to stop and pray without knowing why. And now you see it was divine intervention. The warnings were subtle at first, because God always gives us the chance to respond willingly before the pressure increases. Sometimes he spoke through ordinary conversations that suddenly shifted in tone, carrying weight you couldn't ignore. Other times it came through loss, something you thought you needed being taken away, only for you to realize later it was protection. Even in moments of deep pain, there were signs, but you were too caught up in surviving to notice the message. We find in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." No, this is why some doors you tried to open never budged. This is why some relationships you fought to keep collapsed despite your effort. Heaven was blocking what would have derailed your destiny. The frustration you once felt was actually the mercy of God in disguise. Now, as you look back, those prophetic echoes are not just memories, they are confirmations that you have been guided the whole time. Even your detours and delays were woven into the path you were meant to take. Nothing was wasted. Every warning you ignored was followed by another, because God's persistence is greater than your distraction. But now comes the sobering truth. The warnings are becoming louder because the stakes are becoming higher. There is less room for hesitation. The prophetic whispers have become a steady drumbeat, and soon they will sound like a trumpet. You are approaching the moment when your obedience will determine the course of the years ahead. When you finally recognize the fingerprints of God on your past, it changes the way you move forward. You stop questioning whether he's involved, because you can see his involvement everywhere. You start to realize that if he was faithful to guide you here, he will be faithful to lead you through what is next. And this is where you must respond, not with passivity, not with someday obedience, but with the urgency of someone who knows they have been spared for a reason. Heaven's warnings are not simply to prepare you, they are to position you. If you are still here, breathing, reading these words, then your assignment is not over. In fact, it is about to begin in full force. Comment below. Your will only, because this is more than a phrase. It is a surrender. It is the declaration that you are laying down every personal agenda, every hidden plan, and every my way to say, Lord, from this moment forward, only what you desire will guide my steps. Writing it is not just public agreement, it is an altar moment between you and God, sealing your commitment that His will is the only will you will follow. And remember this, once you make such a declaration, expect the enemy to test it. Distractions may come dressed as blessings, and detours may disguise themselves as opportunities, but if your heart is anchored in your will only, no temptation can sway you. This vow becomes your compass, your shield, and your anchor. Years from now, you will thank yourself for the moment you chose alignment over comfort, obedience over convenience, and destiny over delay. And never forget, every true surrender is followed by divine reinforcement. When you choose your will only, heaven responds with strength you didn't know you had, wisdom you didn't study for, and doors you couldn't have opened on your own. You will notice your steps becoming lighter, even when the path is steep, because you are no longer walking under your own weight. Angels are dispatched. Favor begins to surround you, and the atmosphere over your life shifts. This is not the end of the warnings. It is the beginning of walking in the fulfillment they were always meant to bring. It begins quietly, almost without announcement. One by one, the familiar things in your life start to fade. Like photographs left in the sun, people you thought would be permanent fixtures begin to drift away. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel strained. The places where you once felt at home seem to push you out without reason. This is not cruelty. This is not rejection. This is separation, and it is divine. God will never elevate you into a new season while allowing you to be entangled in what would pull you back. There are moments when His love does not come as a warm embrace, but as a firm hand, gently yet firmly removing you from anything that could contaminate the purity of your calling. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Amos. Chapter 3, verse 3. Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? There is a holy agreement that must exist between your spirit and those who walk beside you. When the assignment on your life changes, that agreement is tested. If the people around you cannot align with what God is doing, the journey together must end. This is painful, but it is necessary. Separation is often misunderstood because it feels like loss. But loss in the kingdom is rarely loss. It is pruning. And pruning is always a sign that more fruit is coming. The branches that remain after pruning are healthier, stronger, and more capable of bearing the weight of abundance. God is not trying to empty your life. He is making room for what is about to be poured in. You will notice that the separation comes in layers. At first, it may be physical distance. People stop calling, stop showing up, stop inviting you. Later, it may be emotional or spiritual conversations no longer resonate, and you feel a growing gap in values and vision. This is not because you have suddenly become better than anyone else, but because your paths are no longer meant to run parallel. Sometimes God will allow disagreements to surface, not to create division for its own sake, but to reveal the difference in direction. Other times, He will simply cause the connection to dissolve without conflict, as if the bond was never there. Both are His way of steering you toward alignment. It's important in this season not to cling to what God is removing. The longer you hold on, the heavier the separation feels. Resistance turns what could have been a clean cut into a tearing, and tearing leaves deeper wounds. Surrendering the process allows you to heal quickly and step forward without unnecessary scars. Do not be surprised if the separation includes things beyond relationships. God may pull you away from certain environments, habits, or routines that once seemed harmless. Even harmless things can become harmful when they no longer serve the season you are entering. The music you listen to, the content you consume, the way you spend your time, all of it will come under review. Separation also happens internally. You will feel yourself detaching from old ways of thinking, old fears, and old definitions of yourself. The identity you carried in the last season will not fit in the next. This can feel disorienting, as if you are losing parts of yourself. In reality, you are shedding what was never truly you. It was only the version of you that could survive in the wilderness. Now you are being prepared for the promised place. And while this process is lonely, it is never without purpose. In the quiet space left behind by what has been removed, God begins to fill you with new strength, new vision, and new connections. But these will not come until the old has been fully released. This is why the separation often feels like a pause before the next chapter. It is the sacred in-between where God writes the foundation for your future. You may cry during this process. You may question why it has to be so difficult. But one day, you will look back and realize that the very people, places, and patterns you thought you needed would have been the anchors that kept you from moving forward. You will thank God for the doors He closed and the roads He blocked, even when you didn't understand at the time. Separation is a mark of the chosen. It is how God protects the purity of the mission He has entrusted to you. It is not a punishment. It is proof that you are being prepared for something greater. And the more willing you are to release what He is removing, the faster you will see the purpose for which you were set apart. So let the separation happen. Let the people go. Let the places fade. Let the old you slip away. Because everything that leaves in obedience to God's timing makes space for something that will last into eternity. The weight has been building quietly, but now you can feel it pressing harder on your spirit. It is not the weight of despair. It is the weight of a mantle. The call of God is no longer just a whisper in your heart. It sits on your shoulders like something alive, something you cannot put down. You sense it in your waking moments and in the stillness of the night. Even when you try to distract yourself, it remains. This is what happens when heaven places responsibility in your hands. The mantle is not just a title or a moment of recognition. It is the invisible authority God gives to accomplish His will on earth. It comes with power, but it also comes with weight. To carry it well, you must let it shape you, stretch you, and sometimes even break you. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, 2nd book, chapter 4, verse 7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. You are that jar of clay, fragile in human strength, yet chosen to carry something eternal. This is why your path has been so different from others. God has been refining you to handle what others could not. Every season of struggle was not a sign that He abandoned you. It was training so that the weight of the mantle would not crush you when it came. Carrying a mantle changes how you see everything. Your choices no longer impact only you. They ripple into the lives of those you are called to reach. Your words carry more weight. Your steps have more consequence. and your obedience holds the power to unlock blessings or close doors. Many people admire the idea of a calling, but are not prepared for the reality of it. The reality is that a mantle will require you to say no when it would be easier to say yes, to stand firm when it would be easier to blend in, and to walk alone when others are compromising. The mantle is both a privilege and a burden. It crowns you and it costs you. Sometimes you will feel the mantle before you even know what it is fully for. This is heaven's way of teaching you to carry responsibility before handing you the full assignment. It's like a runner training with extra weight so that when the actual race begins, they can move faster and endure longer. There will also be moments when the mantle feels too heavy. You may wonder why God chose you, why He didn't pick someone stronger, braver, or more experienced. But the truth is, He didn't choose you because of your qualifications. He chose you because of your willingness. Heaven values obedience over credentials. And here's the key. You are never meant to carry the mantle alone. God has given you His Spirit, His Word, and the strength of divine partnership. When the weight feels like too much, it is often because you have started carrying it in your own strength instead of in His. This is why it matters who you walk with, what you feed your spirit, and where you focus your attention. You must guard the mantle as you would guard a precious crown. Do not place it in environments where it can be dishonored. Do not let careless voices speak doubt into it. Do not trade it for temporary comfort. The world needs what you carry. Heaven didn't give you this mantle so you could keep it hidden. It was meant to be worn, to be seen, and to be used for the glory of God. And if these words are stirring something deep inside you, don't let them stop with you. Pass the light forward, share this message, so another weary soul will see it in time. Keep your spirit connected. Subscribe so you don't miss the next release. Heaven is preparing. And if the Lord stirs your heart to partner in this work, know that every seed you plant, no matter its size, becomes part of a ripple that touches lives you may never meet. But heaven will never forget. This mantle is not a mistake. You were not a backup choice. You were always the one God had in mind for this assignment. And though the weight may feel heavy at times, the reward of faithfulness will far outweigh the cost. Carry it well, for eternity is watching. There comes a point when every chosen one stands at a crossroads. The path splits in two, one road paved with comfort, familiarity, and the approval of people, the other narrow, rugged, and often lonely but glowing faintly with the light of destiny. You know which road heaven is pointing to. You've known for a while, and now you feel the urgency in your bones. This is the moment to decide. This is what I call the crossroads of obedience. It's not a gentle suggestion, it's a divine summons. The Spirit does not force you, but He makes it clear, if you delay too long, the opportunity will shift to someone else who is willing. Heaven's plans will prevail, but whether they prevail through you or without you depends on what you choose now. The Spirit spoke through Moses in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19. This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. No, that is what obedience really is, choosing life, not just for yourself, but for those connected to your assignment. Your yes will ripple into generations, and your no will leave gaps that only God can fill. The challenge of this crossroads is that both roads may seem appealing at first glance. The road of comfort is lined with familiar faces, familiar patterns, and the sense of control. The road of obedience offers no guarantees except the presence of God. But here is the truth. Comfort can quickly become a cage, and control is an illusion. Without the presence of God, even the most well-lit path will lead to darkness. Obedience often looks irrational to others. Noah built an ark before there was rain. Abraham left his homeland without knowing his destination. Peter stepped out of a boat onto water in the middle of a storm. To the world, obedience is foolishness. To heaven, it is the mark of trust. The enemy knows this moment is critical, which is why he often fills the air with distraction and doubt right before you make your choice. He will try to magnify the cost of obedience while hiding its reward, and magnify the comfort of disobedience while hiding its consequences. You must see through the illusion. The crossroads is not about whether God can use you. He can use anyone. It is about whether you will let Him use you fully, without holding back, without reserving pieces of your heart for yourself. Partial obedience is still disobedience, and delayed obedience is often just disguised rebellion. This is why the stirring in your heart has been stronger lately. Heaven is calling for a decisive step. No more circling the same mountain. No more bargaining for more time. You have been given the signs, the confirmations, and the warnings. The next move is yours. And here's the beauty. When you choose obedience, heaven rushes to meet you. Resources you never imagined appear. People you have never met step in to help. Doors that were sealed shut swing open. The supernatural accelerates what your natural effort could never accomplish. But all of this is on the other side of the yes. That, right now, you stand where many have stood before, on the edge of a decision that will shape the rest of your life. You cannot see every step ahead, but you can see the one who goes before you. And that is enough. If you feel that this is your moment to choose the narrow road, I want you to mark it in faith. Comment below the prophetic number 555, not as a superstition, but as a declaration. 5 is the number of grace, and repeating it 3 times is your way of saying, God's grace will sustain my obedience to the very end. When you write it, you're not just typing numbers, you're sealing your choice before heaven and earth. There is no turning back once you step onto this path, but you won't want to. The peace of walking in God's will outweighs the temporary pain of sacrifice. You will find joy in places you thought would be barren. You will see fruit in areas you thought were dead. You will discover that obedience is not the loss of freedom, it is the discovery of true freedom. So, chosen one. The road is in front of you. The signposts are clear. The voice of God is calling. Step where He is leading. And let today be the day you choose life fully, fearlessly, and without reserve. The moment you take a decisive step toward your calling, the enemy recognizes it, and he will not sit quietly. If he cannot stop you through fear or hesitation, he will attempt one last desperate strategy: distraction. This is not a mild inconvenience. It is a calculated move, timed for maximum effect. The enemy understands that outright destruction is often too obvious and would only drive you deeper into God's arms. So instead, he disguises his attack as opportunity, comfort, or urgency. He knows that what he cannot block, he can often delay. And in the kingdom of God, Delay can be as dangerous as defeat when it keeps you from being in the right place at the right time. These distractions come in many forms. Sometimes it is an old relationship suddenly reappearing, promising closure or offering a second chance. Sometimes it is an unexpected offer that seems too good to pass up, yet in your spirit you feel a faint unease. Other times it is a crisis that demands your full attention, pulling you away from the path God has marked for you. The voice of God thundered in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 6, verse 3. I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? Nehemiah spoke those words to people trying to lure him away from the work of rebuilding Jerusalem's walls. They were not inviting him to open sin, they were inviting him to simply stop building. And that is the essence of the enemy's final distraction, to make you pause long enough for momentum to die. It is important to recognize that not every good thing is a God thing. A distraction can look harmless, even helpful, yet still pull your attention, energy, and focus away from your assignment. This is why discernment is vital. You must weigh every invitation, every opportunity, every conversation through the filter of your calling. Will this move me forward or slow me down? Will this feed my obedience or feed my comfort? Sometimes the distraction is not external, it is internal. Old insecurities, unresolved pain, or lingering guilt can resurface, whispering that you are not ready, not worthy, not capable. These voices are strategic. They often arrive when you are making progress, attempting to convince you that your forward motion is an illusion. There are moments when the distraction will feel almost irresistible. The enemy knows your history, your preferences, your weaknesses. He knows the doors you once knocked on in desperation, and he will try to open them again, hoping you will walk back into what God has already delivered you from. This is why you must remain anchored in the truth of who you are and why you were chosen. You may also notice that distractions become more intense right after a breakthrough. The enemy often strikes hardest when you are celebrating a victory because your guard is down. He will aim to take the joy of the moment and twist it into complacency or overconfidence. This is the time to be both grateful and watchful. One of the enemy's most dangerous tactics is to fill your schedule so completely that you have no time left for the presence of God. He does not have to turn you into a rebel, he just has to keep you too busy to pray, too tired to listen, too distracted to obey. This is why Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to pray, even when the crowds were pressing in. If the Son of God needed intentional stillness to stay aligned, so do you. You must also be prepared for the emotional pull of distractions. Some will tug at your compassion, making you feel guilty for focusing on your assignment. But obedience to God is never selfish. It is the most selfless thing you can do. If you abandon your calling to meet every need around you, you will eventually burn out, and the work God entrusted to you will remain unfinished. Recognizing a distraction is only the first step. You must also be willing to walk away from it. This will require courage, because you may be misunderstood. People may accuse you of being cold, prideful, or too focused. But your allegiance is not to public opinion, it is to the one who called you. The final distraction is often the most convincing because it comes wrapped in something you once prayed for. This is the ultimate test. Can you let go of even a good thing if it is not God's timing? Passing this test proves that you value the caller more than the calling and the giver more than the gift. If you resist the enemy's last distraction, his grip will weaken. The momentum you protect now will carry you forward into the fullness of your assignment. And when you look back, you will realize that saying no in these moments was not loss, it was preservation. There is a fire that cannot be lit by human hands. It is not sparked by ambition or stirred by emotion. It comes from the throne of God. And when it touches your life, it burns with a single purpose: to refine. This is the refining fire. And once it begins, there is no mistaking it. The refining fire is not punishment. It is not God venting his anger. It is God perfecting his vessel. Just as gold must pass through intense heat to remove its impurities, your life must endure seasons where the heat rises and the pressure feels unrelenting. The fire does not come to destroy it, comes to make sure you can hold the glory that is coming. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Zechariah. Chapter 13, verse 9. I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people. And they will say, the Lord is our God. Although, in the refining fire, the first thing that burns away is illusion. You begin to see yourself clearly, your strengths, your weaknesses, your hidden motives. The masks you once wore to protect yourself start to melt, leaving only the truth. It can be uncomfortable to see yourself without filters, but it is also liberating. God cannot anoint who you pretend to be. He anoints who you truly are. Next, the fire exposes attachments. It will reveal the things you've been holding on to that have no place in your next season. Sometimes these are obvious sins, but more often they are subtle weights, habits, mindsets, or relationships that are not evil in themselves, but are slowing you down. The refining fire forces you to let them go, not because God wants to deprive you, but because he wants to free you. You may also notice that the fire changes your appetites. What once satisfied you will no longer be enough. Shallow pleasures lose their sweetness, and you begin to hunger for deeper things, for truth, for purity, for the presence of God. This is how the fire prepares you. It burns away what is temporary, so you can crave what is eternal. The refining fire also tests your endurance. It does not pass in an instant. Days can turn into weeks, weeks into months, and sometimes longer. This is not because God delights in prolonging your trial, but because transformation takes time. Gold is not purified in moments. It is purified in a process. And when that process is complete, the gold is so pure, it reflects the face of the one refining it. Perhaps the most difficult part of the refining fire is the silence. You may cry out to God and feel as though heaven is still, but silence does not mean absence. The refiner is always nearest to the gold when it is in the fire. He watches carefully, ensuring the heat does not destroy you, but only removes what does not belong. There will be moments when you wonder if you will make it through. The pressure will feel unbearable, the losses too great, the waiting too long. Yet every chosen one who has gone before you would tell you the same thing. Hold on. Do not run from the fire, for it is the very thing shaping you into the vessel you were meant to be. When you emerge from the refining fire, you will not be the same. Your faith will be steadier, your discernment sharper, your obedience quicker. The things that once shook you will no longer move you. The fire will leave its mark, not as scars of damage, but as proof of strength. And when God looks at you in that moment, he will see his own reflection. That is the goal of the refining fire, not to make you impressive to the world, but to make you a mirror of the one who called you. So, if you are in the heat right now, remember this: the fire is not your enemy. It is the tool of your Maker. And when it has done its work, you will be ready, not just to carry the mantle, but to carry it with purity, humility, and unshakable faith. So let the flames do their work. Let them strip away what cannot last. And let them forge in you a faith that cannot be shaken. For when you step out of this season, the light within you will burn brighter than the fire that once surrounded you. There comes a moment in the journey of every chosen one when silence is no longer an option. The refining fire has done its work. The mantle rests on your shoulders, and the path ahead is clear. Yet before you step fully into the next stage, heaven asks for something from you: your voice. This is the call to declare your allegiance, not in private, not only in whispered prayers, but out loud, with words that mark you as one who belongs wholly to the kingdom. Heaven is not shy about claiming you, neither should you be shy about claiming Him. The Spirit spoke through Jesus Himself in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 32. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. To declare your allegiance is to take a public stand. It is to make it clear to every person, every power, and every spirit, both seen and unseen, that your loyalty is not for sale. It is to say with your life, I know whom I serve, and I will not turn back. Declarations carry spiritual weight. In the natural, they sound like mere words, but in the spiritual, they are legal documents, binding you to the truth you speak. The kingdom of darkness trembles when a chosen one opens their mouth in faith, because the moment you speak, you shift the atmosphere. This is why the enemy works so hard to silence you. He knows that if he can keep you quiet, he can keep you uncertain. If he can convince you to stay neutral, he can make you ineffective. But neutrality is not an option in this battle. Silence in the face of spiritual confrontation is agreement with the wrong side. Your declaration doesn't have to be long, but it must be true. It is not about eloquence, it is about alignment. When you speak in alignment with heaven, your words become weapons, cutting through lies, breaking fear, and sealing your position in the Spirit. You may feel the weight of intimidation. People may mock you, question your motives, or accuse you of being too intense. Let them. You are not speaking for their approval. You are speaking to affirm your covenant with God. Their misunderstanding will not follow you into eternity, but your allegiance will. There is also power in declaring your allegiance in moments of uncertainty. You may not have all the answers, but you can still say, I belong to the Lord, even in weakness. Such a statement builds a wall of protection around your spirit. Heaven hears it, hell hears it, and both know where you stand. Your declaration also calls others into courage. When you speak boldly, it sparks something in those who have been hiding in the shadows of fear. Many are waiting for someone to lead the way, to show them it is possible to stand firm in a world that bends to compromise. Do not underestimate what a simple, spirit-filled statement can do. The early church grew not because of perfect sermons, but because ordinary people could not stop declaring that Jesus was Lord. Their words were so powerful that even chains, prisons, and threats could not silence them. In this moment, heaven is prompting you not only to think about your allegiance, but to voice it. Not tomorrow, not when it feels safe now, Every second you delay, the enemy gains room to sow seeds of doubt. Every moment you speak, you reinforce your foundation in truth. Comment below, "I stand firm," because when you write it, you are not just typing letters, you are engraving your stance into the spiritual atmosphere. You are declaring before heaven, earth, and the armies of darkness that your allegiance is unshakable. This is more than a reaction to a message, it is an act of warfare, a banner raised in the middle of battle. You are aligning your voice with the remnant that will not bow, will not compromise, and will not retreat. In that moment, the enemy knows you will not be moved, and heaven rejoices over a warrior who stands their ground. Let those 3 words be your battle cry in this season. Whisper them in prayer. Speak them over your life, and declare them when you feel the pressure to give in. They will remind you that the same God who called you will keep you standing when others fall. One day, when the history of your life is read before heaven, your declarations will not be forgotten. They will stand as testimony that you did not shrink back, that you claimed your place, and that you honored the one who chose you. And in that moment, you will hear him say the words every chosen one longs to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." There are moments in your journey when God pulls back the veil and shows you something he has kept hidden until now. It is not because you were unworthy before, but because you were not ready to carry the weight of what he wanted to reveal. This is the moment of the hidden scroll being opened. The scroll represents a piece of your assignment, a revelation, an instruction, or a vision that was sealed until the appointed time. When heaven unseals it, everything shifts. You begin to see patterns in your past that suddenly make sense, connections in your present that feel divinely orchestrated, and glimpses of your future that fill you with both awe and holy fear. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Daniel, chapter 12, verse 4. "But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end. Many will go here and there to increase knowledge." There are things God has sealed in your life for years. He has been shaping you in secret so that when the seal breaks, you will not mishandle what he places in your hands. The hidden scroll is not just information, it is activation. It awakens a part of you that has been dormant, and it gives you authority to move in ways you never could before. When the scroll opens, it will confirm what you have been sensing all along. The dreams that seemed too bold, the burdens that would not leave, the fire in your spirit that you could not explain, they were all tied to this moment. You will see that nothing was wasted, not even your delays or detours. God has been weaving every strand together to lead you here. But revelation always brings responsibility. What you do with what God shows you will determine the impact it has. Some people receive insight and hide it out of fear. Others try to run ahead of God's timing and lose their footing. The hidden scroll must be handled with both courage and wisdom. It may also require secrecy at first. Not everyone is ready to hear what God has revealed to you. Some will misunderstand. Others will oppose it. And a few may even try to twist it for their own purposes. This is why you must stay close to the one who gave you the scroll. He will show you when to speak, when to act, and when to wait. The enemy fears the moment the scroll opens in your life, because it means you have moved from walking in potential to walking in purpose. Expect resistance, but also expect supernatural acceleration. Doors that have been shut for years can swing open overnight, when you begin to move in the authority of what God has revealed. If your spirit is stirring as you read this, it may be because God is beginning to unseal something for you. Even now, it could be a new direction for your ministry, a fresh vision for your family, a strategy for your business, or a burden for a people or place you have never considered before. Whatever it is, guard it, nurture it, and prepare to act on it when the time comes. And if these words are unlocking something inside you, don't let the moment fade. Share this message so another chosen one will recognize their own scroll when it opens. Keep your spirit aligned. Subscribe so you can walk in step with the next prophetic word. And if God stirs your heart to sow into this mission, know that your seed is more than support. It becomes a key in someone else's breakthrough. Opening doors they never thought would open. The scroll has been hidden for a reason. Its timing is precise. And when God opens it, He does so because He knows you are ready to steward what is inside. Handle it with reverence. Act with faith. And let it propel you into the fullness of the assignment you were born to fulfill. And never forget what God reveals. He also empowers you to fulfill. The hidden scroll is not just a vision to admire, it is a mission to complete. There will be moments when you feel unqualified, but the very fact that He entrusted this to you means heaven has already accounted for your weaknesses and prepared the strength you will need. Walk forward with boldness, knowing that every step you take in obedience turns the scroll's words into living reality. And when you see it unfold, you will know without a doubt it was worth every moment of waiting for this unveiling. There are seasons when it feels as though everything in your life is locked behind an invisible barrier. You push, you pray, you fast, you plan, and yet nothing seems to move. These are the seasons of delay. And for the chosen ones, they are often some of the hardest to endure. Delay has a way of whispering lies. Maybe you heard wrong. Maybe you missed your chance. Maybe it will never happen. But heaven does not measure time as we do. In the spiritual realm, a delay is not the same as a denial. It is a pause with purpose. God allows it not to punish you, but to prepare the perfect alignment for what He has promised. When the delay ends, it will end suddenly, and when it breaks, it will be as if every locked door swings open at once. The writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 27, verse 14 remind us, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord." Oh, the breaking of delay is rarely gradual. It often happens in a way that catches you off guard. One day, it feels as though nothing is moving. The next, opportunities appear, answers arrive, and the pace of your life accelerates beyond what you imagined. This is because God's timing is not about slow progress. It is about appointed moments. In the season leading up to the breaking of delay, you may feel stretched beyond your limits. Doors that seemed close to opening will shut again. People who promised to help will vanish. Resources you thought you had secured will fall through. This stripping away is not meant to harm you. It is meant to ensure that when the delay breaks, no one else can take credit for what God has done. There is also a spiritual battle attached to delay. The enemy knows that if he can keep you waiting long enough without hope, you may abandon the very thing you were called to carry. This is why you must guard your heart in seasons of waiting. Do not let bitterness, comparison, or despair take root. The longer the delay, the more the enemy will try to fill the silence with lies. When God breaks delay, He often does it in ways that redeem the lost time. What should have taken years happens in months. What once seemed impossible becomes normal. Relationships are restored. Resources multiply. And influence expands quickly. It is as if God compresses the harvest of multiple seasons into one moment. You will also notice that when the delay breaks, there is an undeniable sense of divine order. The right people arrive at the right time. Doors open without you forcing them. What once felt like chaos becomes a clear path. This is the evidence that the delay was not wasted, it was orchestrated. However, the breaking of delay requires readiness. If you have spent your waiting season complaining or neglecting preparation, you may miss the opportunity when it comes. The chosen ones who benefit most from the end of delay are those who have been sharpening their skills, deepening their faith, and keeping their hearts pure during the wait. Sometimes, the breaking of delay will come with a test. Just as Israel was released from Egypt only to face the Red Sea, your breakthrough may be followed immediately by a challenge that requires faith. This is not a setback, it is confirmation. The same God who broke the delay will carry you through the obstacle. When you see the signs of delay breaking accelerated opportunities, unexpected favor, sudden restoration, move quickly. Do not overthink or hesitate. The window may not stay open forever, and the momentum of this moment is meant to carry you forward. In the end, the breaking of delay is not just about you finally receiving what you prayed for. It is about God showing His faithfulness to every promise He made. It is about Him proving that no force in heaven or on earth can hold back what He has ordained for His chosen ones. And when it happens, you will realize something profound. The delay was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you. It forged endurance, sharpened discernment, and deepened your trust. And now, as the barriers fall, you will step forward not just with answered prayers, but with a heart fully convinced that God's timing is perfect. And from this place of trust, you will walk with a steadiness you never had before, knowing that the God who broke your delay will also sustain every step that follows. There are moments in the life of a chosen one when heaven entrusts you with something far greater than personal blessing. It is the release of prophetic authority. This is not merely speaking encouraging words. It is carrying the very breath of God in your mouth, so that when you speak, circumstances shift, hearts awaken, and darkness retreats. Prophetic authority is weighty. It is given not to exalt you, but to extend the reach of God's will on earth. The words you release under this authority do not come from your own imagination. They are born from intimacy with God, forged in the quiet hours when no one is watching. When you choose to listen more than you speak, we find in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 9, "Then the Lord reached out His hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth." And when this happens, your voice is no longer just your own. Heaven backs your declarations. You may speak over a person, a city, or even a situation in your own life. And what you release carries the power to realign reality to match the will of God. But with this authority comes a holy responsibility. You cannot speak carelessly. Every word carries weight, and every declaration must be anchored in truth, love, and obedience. If you try to use prophetic authority for personal gain, its flow will dry up, because God will not allow His power to serve selfish ambition. The release of prophetic authority often comes after a long season of testing. God watches how you handle small assignments, how you speak when no one is listening, and whether you obey even when it costs you. Only then does he place a greater measure of influence in your hands. You will also find that prophetic authority is often released in specific moments of urgency. Heaven may nudge you to speak a word that feels far beyond your understanding, yet later you will discover it was exactly what was needed. These moments are proof that the gift is not about you, it's about the God who speaks through you. Do not be surprised if the enemy tries to silence you. At this point, he will use intimidation, doubt, and even past failures to convince you that your words carry no power. But remember, prophetic authority is not about your worthiness, it's about God's choice. If he has placed his words in your mouth, then your voice is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. When you release prophetic authority, the spiritual atmosphere around you changes. What was stagnant begins to move. What was dead begins to stir. What was hidden comes into the light. And often, you will see answers to prayers unfold more quickly, because your words have aligned with heaven's timing. This is why, in this very moment, you must choose to walk boldly in the authority given to you, not recklessly, but without shrinking back. The world does not need silent prophets. It needs voices that carry the sound of heaven with clarity and conviction. If you know God has entrusted you with this authority, or if you sense that he is beginning to stir it within you, mark this moment in faith. Comment below the prophetic number 888, a number that in the language of the Spirit speaks of resurrection, complete cycles of grace, and new beginnings multiplied threefold. The 888 is not random. It represents heaven's stamp of acceleration, where what you declare begins to manifest swiftly because it carries the breath of God. When you write it, you are not typing empty digits. You are striking a gavel in the courts of heaven, finalizing a decree over your life and over those your words will touch. In that act, you are saying, Lord, I receive the authority you trust me with, and I will use it only to establish your will on earth. For the chosen ones, prophetic authority is not optional. It is part of the mantle you carry. And when it is used in humility and obedience, it becomes a weapon, a light, and a lifeline for those still trapped in darkness. And as you walk in it, you will see confirmations everywhere, prayers answered with precision, closed doors swinging wide, and even hostile atmospheres bending under the weight of God's word through you. This is the evidence that prophetic authority, once released, cannot be silenced, because it flows from the throne itself and returns only when its mission is complete. When God entrusts you with a calling, it is natural to assume that those closest to you will celebrate it. You imagine they will see the favor on your life, hear the passion in your words, and stand beside you as you step into your assignment. But for many chosen ones, the reality is far different. As the light on your life grows brighter, it begins to expose the truth about those around you, and not all of them are for you. The unveiling of opposition is rarely sudden. It begins subtly, with small shifts in tone, unexplained distance, or a change in the way certain people speak about you. At first, you might dismiss it as coincidence or mood swings, but as the pattern repeats, it becomes impossible to ignore. Some who once encouraged you now question you. Others who promised loyalty quietly step back, and a few may even begin to undermine you in ways you never expected. The Spirit spoke through the psalmist in the book of Psalms. Chapter 41, verse 9. Even my close friend, someone I trusted, one who shared my bread, has turned against me. This is one of the hardest lessons for a chosen one, to learn that opposition can come from familiar faces. It is easier to handle attacks from strangers than to navigate betrayal from friends, family, or fellow believers. Yet God allows this unveiling because hidden opposition is more dangerous than open hostility. If it remains concealed, it can erode your confidence, distort your discernment, and plant seeds of doubt about your calling. Sometimes the unveiling comes through conflict, but often it happens simply through the passing of time. As you grow in your assignment, your priorities shift, and not everyone can accept the changes. Those who were comfortable with you in one season may feel threatened by who you are becoming. Your obedience to God can highlight their own compromise, and rather than confronting their hearts, they choose to oppose yours. It is important to understand that this unveiling is not meant to make you bitter, it is meant to make you wise. God is showing you who can truly walk with you into the next season. Trust is a powerful currency in the kingdom, and He will not allow you to invest it carelessly. In some cases, the opposition will be subtle, a refusal to support you, a lack of enthusiasm when you share victories, or skepticism about your decisions. In other cases, it will be direct criticism, slander, or attempts to block your progress. Both forms are dangerous if you are not prepared for them. Your response in this season matters. The natural reaction is to defend yourself, to confront every false word, or to prove your worth. But the higher road is to keep your eyes fixed on your assignment. The unveiling is God's work, not yours. When He reveals an opponent, it is not your job to destroy them. It is your job to avoid being distracted by them. You must also guard your heart against offense. Offense is a trap that can pull you out of alignment faster than any external enemy. If you allow it to fester, it will poison your vision and turn your calling into a personal vendetta. Forgiveness does not mean allowing harmful people back into your inner circle. It means refusing to let their actions control your spirit. The unveiling of opposition can be lonely, but it is also liberating. Once you know who is truly for you, you can walk with greater confidence. You no longer have to question motives or wonder who is secretly hoping you fail. You can pour your energy into relationships that are aligned with your destiny, rather than wasting it on those who are not. And remember this, every chosen one in Scripture faced opposition. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers. David was hunted by Saul. Nehemiah was mocked by his enemies. And Jesus was abandoned by his disciples. Opposition is not a sign you are off course. It is often confirmation that you are exactly where you are meant to be. When God unveils opposition, see it as His mercy, protecting you from sabotage you could not see. It may hurt, but it will also sharpen your discernment, deepen your dependence on Him, and prepare you to navigate even greater challenges ahead. In time, you will thank Him for every unveiling, because it freed you to run your race without the weight of false alliances. And when you look back, you will see that losing the wrong people was just as important as gaining the right ones. There are seasons in your journey when the pieces of your life seem scattered, people, opportunities, resources, all appearing to stand apart, without a clear pattern or purpose. But when the appointed time comes, Heaven begins to move in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. This is the great alignment. Alignment is more than coincidence. It is the deliberate arrangement of God's plan so that every element is in its proper place for your assignment. What once seemed random begins to connect. Delays that once frustrated you reveal themselves as protection. People you met years ago reappear at just the right moment with exactly what you need. The Apostle Paul reminds us in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose," and in alignment. Timing is everything. Even the most powerful calling will falter if it tries to move outside of God's appointed moment. That is why the waiting seasons matter so much. They position you to be in the right place at the right time with the right preparation. Alignment also means the right people are brought into your life. Some will come as mentors, offering wisdom for challenges you have never faced before. Others will walk beside you as partners, sharing the weight of the work. And still others will appear as divine connections, people who carry resources, influence, or access that open doors you could not open alone. Not everyone who enters your life in this season will look like you expect. Sometimes, alignment comes through unlikely allies, people you never thought would support you. God has a way of using both the familiar and the surprising to accomplish his will. That is why you must stay open, discerning every connection without dismissing those who do not fit your idea of how help should look. Resources also align in this season. Finances, opportunities, and favor begin to flow in ways that remove the strain of constant striving. What you once had to fight for begins to find you. This is not because the journey has become easier, but because you have stepped into the flow of God's timing, where provision is tied to purpose. Even your challenges align. Problems you face now may force you to develop skills or strategies you will need later. Opposition may strengthen your endurance. Obstacles may redirect you onto a path you would have missed otherwise. In God's alignment, nothing is wasted, not even the setbacks. One of the most powerful aspects of alignment is clarity. As the pieces come together, your vision sharpens. You begin to understand why certain doors closed, why certain relationships ended, and why you had to wait as long as you did. The confusion of past seasons gives way to a deep sense of order. Alignment does not mean perfection. There will still be battles, but they will be battles. You are equipped to win. There will still be decisions, but you will have the wisdom to make them. There will still be movement, but it will be movement with purpose, not panits. It is also important to recognize that alignment is ongoing. God does not arrange everything once and leave it. He continues to shift, adjust, and move pieces as your assignment grows. Staying sensitive to his leading ensures you remain in step with the changes he is making. In this season, humility is essential. Alignment is not something you achieve through clever planning or sheer effort. It is a gift from God. Boasting in your ability to make it happen will only break the very flow he has created. Gratitude keeps you anchored, reminding you that every open door and every divine connection is evidence of his faithfulness. When you experience alignment, it often feels like acceleration. What took years to accomplish in the past now happens in weeks or even days. This is why stewardship is so important. You must be ready to handle the speed at which things begin to move. Mishandled alignment can turn into chaos if you are not grounded in character and discipline. The Great Alignment is a reminder that your life is not a series of disconnected events. Every meeting, every delay, every shift has been part of a master design. And when God begins to connect those pieces, the picture that emerges will be greater than anything you could have imagined. So when you see alignment happening around you, walk with confidence. Trust that heaven has set the stage for what comes next. And know that if God has gone to such lengths to arrange every detail, He will also sustain you in the role He has prepared you to play. There are moments in the life of a chosen one when the weight of the journey feels almost unbearable. The battles have been long, the nights sleepless, and the cost higher than you imagined at the start. You may even wonder if you have the strength to keep going. But it is often in these exact moments when you feel closest to breaking that heaven is preparing to crown you with victory. The crown is not given for starting the race, it is given for finishing it. And finishing is not about never stumbling, it is about refusing to quit. Every wound you carry, every scar from the battlefield, is proof that you have endured where others gave up. The crown is not just a symbol of reward, it is heaven's acknowledgement of your perseverance, your obedience, and your loyalty to the one who called you. The Lord declares in the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 10, "Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown." This is the season where your fight matters most. The enemy knows he cannot take your calling, so he will try to make you abandon it yourself. He will whisper lies that tell you your labor is in vain, that no one sees your sacrifice, that God has forgotten you. But every one of those whispers is a desperate attempt to stop you before you see the harvest. In this moment, your obedience is the most powerful weapon you carry. It speaks louder than fear, louder than fatigue, louder than doubt. Every step forward in faith is an act of defiance against the forces that wanted you to stop. And with each step, you are closer to the moment when the crown will be placed on your head. But understand this, your crown is not only about your personal victory. It carries influence, authority, and favor that will spill over into the lives of those you are called to impact. When God crowns a chosen one, it is never just for their sake, it is for the sake of the people, communities, and nations they will touch. This is why you must protect your crown. Do not trade it for temporary comfort, for the approval of people, or for the false relief of quitting early. The price of the crown is high, but the cost of losing it is far higher. And as you feel the weight of this moment, know that you are not running alone. Heaven is watching, cheering you on. Every step you take is seen. Every tear you've shed has been counted. Every battle you fought has been recorded in the courts of heaven as evidence of your faithfulness. If this message resonates with you, I encourage you, like this message as a sign that you will keep pressing forward. Share it with someone who might be ready to give up, so they too can be reminded that the crown is worth the fight. Subscribe so you won't miss the next word of encouragement and strategy for your journey. And if God stirs your heart to sow into this mission, know that your seed will help carry these messages to other weary warriors who need strength for their own race. Your support is not just generosity, it is an investment in the victories of others. Before you finish reading, I want you to mark this moment publicly. Leave a comment with the words, "I will finish," because there is power in declaring it out loud. You are telling heaven, earth, and every watching spirit that no matter the weight, no matter the warfare, You will not lay down your assignment. You will not surrender your crown. Let those words be your battle cry for the days ahead. Whisper them when you wake. Speak them when you feel the heaviness pressing in, and declare them over your life when the road feels long. They are not just a statement, they are a prophecy over your own future. The race is not over yet, but the finish line is closer than you think. Keep running. Keep fighting. Keep believing. For soon, the hands that called you will be the hands that crown you, and in that moment, every cost will be forgotten in the light of eternal reward. And when that day comes, you will understand why every tear was worth it, why every battle had purpose, and why quitting was never an option. The crown will not just rest on your head, it will shine as a testimony that faith, when finished well, always leads to glory. There is a point in every chosen one's journey where the storms do not pass quickly, and the night does not break easily into dawn. This is the deep endurance season. It is not the dramatic battle where adrenaline carries you forward, nor the early days of faith where the excitement of the call fuels your steps. This is the long road, the part of the journey where persistence itself becomes the victory. Deep endurance is forged in silence. It is in the days when you pray and hear no immediate answer, when you sow faithfully but see no visible harvest, when you obey, yet the circumstances seem unchanged. Here, the measure of your faith is not in your ability to rejoice in quick results, but in your decision to remain steadfast when the results are hidden. The Word of God declares in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 36, you need to persevere, so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. Endurance in this form is not glamorous. It does not come with applause or recognition. Few will see the quiet battles you fight in your own heart, the choice to trust when logic says otherwise, the discipline to rise and work when your emotions pull you toward retreat. Yet heaven takes note of every moment you refuse to give up. Deep endurance reshapes your perspective. It teaches you that the goal is not simply to outlast the trial, but to be transformed by it. Trials strip away what is superficial and anchor you in what is eternal. They reveal where your hope truly rests, and whether your trust is in outcomes or in the God who holds them. It is in these prolonged seasons that God often builds the kind of character that cannot be shaken later. Endurance teaches you patience, not the passive kind that waits idly, but the active kind that keeps moving forward. Even in the absence of visible progress, it strengthens your faith, not in the sense of believing harder, but in believing longer, refusing to let go when others would walk away. The enemy despises endurance because it is unshakable. He can disrupt your plans, delay your progress, and stir opposition. But he cannot stop someone who refuses to quit. Endurance robs him of the satisfaction of seeing you break under pressure, and with every day you persist, you are proving that your faith is not conditional on comfort or convenience. Deep endurance is also a witness to others. People may not see every struggle, but they notice consistency. They notice when you keep showing up. Keep honoring your commitments. Keep holding your ground when the winds howl. In a world addicted to speed and instant gratification, endurance stands out as a rare and powerful testimony. One of the challenges of this season is the temptation to measure success by visible change. But endurance teaches you that growth is often invisible at first. Roots deepen long before new branches appear. Muscles strengthen before they can lift heavier weight. In the same way, your spirit is being fortified now for the greater battles and greater victories ahead. There is also a hidden intimacy in deep endurance. When other sources of strength fail, you discover how to draw directly from God's presence. You learn to rest in Him, not because your circumstances are peaceful, but because He Himself is your peace. This intimacy becomes your unshakable foundation, the place you return to long after the storm has passed. In time, endurance gives birth to clarity. As the noise of frustration fades, you begin to see the subtle ways God has been moving all along. What felt like stillness was often His careful preparation. What felt like delay was His precise alignment. And when the breakthrough finally comes, you will see that it was not late, it was right on time. For the chosen ones, deep endurance is not just about surviving the hard seasons, it is about emerging from them with a faith that is stronger, deeper, and more unshakable than before. This kind of faith can carry the weight of greater assignments, because it has been tested and proven in the fires of perseverance. So, if you find yourself in the long night, with no clear end in sight, remember, every step you take is another declaration that you will not be moved. Every sunrise you greet is another reminder that your faith has outlasted the darkness. And when the dawn finally breaks, you will walk into it not as someone barely surviving, but as someone fully forged by endurance, ready for the next chapter heaven has prepared for you. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the pieces finally fall into place, not in the way you expected, but in the way that was always destined. It is the season of fulfillment, the moment when what was once only whispered in prayer now stands before you as living reality. Fulfillment is not simply the arrival of what you hoped for, it is the convergence of every step, every trial, and every unseen act of faith into a visible outcome. And when it comes, it carries a weight you could not have borne had it arrived earlier. God's timing ensures that the gift will not crush you, but empower you. The psalmist writes in the book of Psalms, chapter 145, verse 13, "The Lord is trustworthy in all He promises and faithful in all He does." And when fulfillment comes, it often feels both sudden and inevitable. Sudden, because it may happen in a moment you least expect. Inevitable, because looking back, you can see how every event, good and painful, was woven together to bring you here. Even the detours and delays, which once seemed like obstacles, reveal themselves as essential parts of the journey. One of the most humbling aspects of fulfillment is realizing how much of it had nothing to do with your own strength. You will see the fingerprints of God in the open doors you could not force, the provision you could not earn, and the protection you did not even know you needed. Fulfillment exposes just how dependent you have been on His grace all along. But fulfillment also brings responsibility. With answered prayers comes greater stewardship. The blessings you hold in your hands are not meant to be hoarded, they are meant to be poured back into the mission you were given. What God fulfills in your life is often the seed for someone else's breakthrough. It is important to note that fulfillment does not mean the absence of challenge. In fact, the very promise you now hold may attract new battles. This is not a sign of failure, but a reminder that every fulfilled word of God carries weight in the spiritual realm, and that weight will be contested. You will need to guard what has been entrusted to you with the same diligence you showed in pursuing it. There is also a holy awe in fulfillment. You may find yourself revisiting the moments when you almost quit, realizing how close you were to missing this season. You will recall the prayers prayed in desperation, the tears shed in silence, the nights you lay awake, wondering if you had misunderstood your calling. And then you will look at the reality before you and know He heard every word, saw every tear, and counted every step. For some, fulfillment will be deeply personal, a healed relationship, a restored health, a long-awaited answer. For others, it will be a public commission, a platform to speak, a position to influence, a mission to lead. But for all, it will carry the same truth: God is faithful, and His promises are not empty. In fulfillment, gratitude becomes your anchor. It keeps you from thinking the journey was your doing alone. It reminds you that the same God who brought you here will sustain you for what comes next. Gratitude also keeps your heart soft, preventing the pride that can creep in when success finally arrives. And perhaps most importantly, fulfillment teaches you that every ending is also a beginning. The close of one chapter signals the start of another. The very promise you now hold may open doors to new assignments, deeper callings, and greater adventures of faith. The journey does not end here. It simply shifts into a new season. When fulfillment comes, let it humble you, inspire you, and prepare you. Celebrate the faithfulness of God, but do not lay down your armor. Receive the promise, but keep your eyes fixed on the promiser, because the ultimate fulfillment is not in the gift itself, but in the growing intimacy with the one who gave it. And as you step into this season, may you carry the unshakable knowledge that nothing was wasted. Every tear was water for this harvest. Every battle was training for this responsibility. Every delay was alignment for this perfect moment. This is what you were prepared for. This is why you endured. And now, the fulfillment that stands before you is proof not only that God keeps His word, but that you were always meant to see it with your own eyes. You have walked through every moment of this journey, through the warnings, the refining, the battles, the endurance, and finally, into fulfillment. None of it was by accident. Heaven orchestrated every step so that this message would find you right now, in this exact season of your life. If these words have stirred something deep in your spirit, don't let the moment pass in silence. Let your agreement be seen and heard. Like this message, as a sign that you choose to walk fully in your calling, share it with someone you know is standing on the edge of giving up, so they can be reminded that their story is far from over. Take a moment to leave a comment below with a declaration from your own heart, something that marks your commitment to keep moving forward. Your words might be the confirmation another chosen one needs to see today. If you haven't already, subscribe so you never miss the next word Heaven places in my mouth for you. Each new message builds on the last, keeping you equipped, encouraged, and sharp for the days ahead. And if God moves your heart to sow into this work, know that your gift does more than support. It multiplies the reach of these words to people across the world who are desperate for hope, clarity, and courage. Every seed you plant carries the potential to change a life, restore a calling, and ignite a destiny. You are not just a listener, you are a part of this mission. And as we stand together, speaking truth, choosing obedience, and refusing to quit, Heaven's work will advance through us. The crown is before you, the finish line is ahead, and the one who called you is faithful to see you through.